Actually, I am an alcoholic. My sobriety date is 2/13/16. You can do the math on it. It's in between a year and a half and 2 years. I've sort of lost count, really. Not a lot of time, especially in this building. You start thinking, man, there's a lot of sober people in this building. And really, should I even be speaking, to be honest with you? But that's my MO, man. I overthink things. And, the honest truth is there's a script in AA, and I'm glad there is one, because it pretty much tells you, this is what you do. And if you're asked to do something, you do it. And so I'm very privileged and glad that Chuck asked me. I have a home group, keeping it sober. I have a sponsor. He has a sponsor. He has a sponsor. And I'm pretty sure he has a sponsor. I've got it about 4 guys up, but I have it. It goes up a long ways. I have been to a lot of meetings. I've spoke at some. Mostly I come and listen, or to discussion groups. I've been to several speaker meetings, and it cracks me up a little bit. And it's not the speaker; it's me on this thing. How some people will start their story at conception, and then they'll start working their way up. I've been to many meetings where they, I was born in a rolling valley in eastern Kentucky, and I'm like, man, okay, well, all right. With that said, I was born in a rolling valley in North Georgia, a little place called, it's not little, Athens, Georgia. And I'm going to start there because there's some things that are sort of, poignant to my story. Maybe why I turned out some of the ways I did. But I was born to young parents. My mom was 19 or 20 when I was born. My dad, I think, was 21. My dad was a football player for the University of Georgia. And my mom was a cheerleader for the University of Georgia. And I was actually born on campus. I think I was supposed to be born at Grady, which is a hospital in Atlanta. The story goes I was a little premature, and they didn't make it. So on my birth certificate, it actually lists an infirmary where I was born on the University of Georgia campus. So you think I'd be a bulldog. I'm not. I'm a big Tar Heel fan. I'm not a bulldog, but all my dad's side of the family are big Georgia Bulldogs. I don't remember a whole lot about growing up. I know I've got friends of mine that can spot out, times at 3 years old, 4 years old. My memories didn't start there. Maybe a flash of a Christmas or something like that. But I do remember exactly where I was, what I was doing, what I was wearing, what the room looked like, what time of day it was, what my mom looked like when my mother sat myself and my little sister down and said, "We're going to leave your father." I'm going to leave your father. And I think I was 5.5 maybe at the time. And I remember what I felt at that time. And it was relief that she was going to be leaving him. I don't, like I say, I got scattered memories early on, but it was very chaotic in my household. I'm not going to take either one of my parents' inventory. Alcoholism does run in my family. It was physical, it was loud, and it was chaotic. And I was glad when my mom said she was going to leave my dad. And my mom is a proud Southern woman. She took the kids. She got in a car. She didn't even want any money from my dad. And we took off. And growing up in where I grew up, my first friends were cousins. I didn't really have a lot of friends, but I had a big family. And we would parade around in the car, and we'd go to one cousin's house and stay, and we'd go to another cousin's house and stay. Basically, we had everything we owned in a car. And I remember, man, I hated going to school back then, because on any given day, you can only fit so much in a car, all right? And, as far as clothes, I was always wearing older cousins' clothes to school that didn't fit. And I think I told somebody this one day. I actually went to school, I think it was in 2nd grade, and my shoes didn't match. And I'm going to tell you what, man, you got to buck up. You got to man up real quick if you go to 2nd grade and your shoes don't match, because you're going to hear it. And I remember hearing it. I don't, we go from one place to another, and there was always that call at 3 o'clock in the morning from my dad that he was going to come get us. And then we were off to another cousin's house or an aunt's house. And that's where I go to school from that day. And we did that for several years. My mom met a gentleman here in Pinehurst when I was in 3rd grade, I think. And she remarried. And I remember her sitting us down for this too and saying, "Hey, I met this guy, and we met him, and we're going to move to Pinehurst." And I was all for it, dude. I've been running around in a Chevrolet Chevette for 3 years, and I was like, any type of stability, I was cool with it. And I was like, let's do it, So we went. We packed up and we moved to Pinehurst at the beginning of my 4th grade year, I think. I remember coming to Pinehurst, and the first thing I thought was, man, this is one green-ass city right here, man. I mean, it's green for days, like golf courses all over the place, pools. I mean, from where I'd come from, I literally thought I'd hit the lotto. I was like, man, this is going to work out pretty good. And my mom remarried. I am adopted, not like orphanage adopted. Obviously, I have 2 natural parents, but my stepfather adopted my younger sister and me. So we hit the car, we drove up here, I had a new name, had a new family, and it was off to the races. And things were pretty good, man. I enjoyed coming here. I met a lot of friends, played a lot of sports, went to Pinehurst Middle School. Just recently was reintroduced to a friend of mine, one of the first guys I met growing up. Middle school was cool. I'm going to skip through a lot of this, nonsense. Middle school was fine. I got to high school. It was good. I started developing isms when I was probably middle school, though. I had episodes of panic. I remember having, I think I was in 6th grade, man. I had I didn't know what it was, man. I'm 50 years old. So, when I was in 6th grade, they didn't have documentaries on what panic was. I'd never heard of it. I didn't know what it was. All I know was it was the worst feeling I'd ever felt in my life. And I didn't know how to stop it. I didn't know what brought it on. The only thing somebody asked me to explain panic to them one time, and the only even close scenario I could come up with was being like on a roller coaster. And that part where you're falling on a roller coaster and you lose your stomach and you can't, you're not thinking right and your heart's racing. Well, that's 30 minutes of that, an hour of that, 2 hours of that. And it's unrelenting. And it's taxing. And that was the start for me of having issues with panic. I found a refuge in sports. Like a lot of us, I hear this a lot in AA. Hey man, I went out and I went and played sports. I ran a lot, I sweat a lot. And that would take my mind off certain things. And some things I was good at. Played football, wrestled, I played golf. And of all the sports that I was probably the best at, golf was the one I was the best at. And I ended up playing a couple years in the university I went to. I didn't do a lot of drinking in high school, I drank. I was a binge drinker. But I was always, I come from a very alpha-centric family. And my goals were always like, I'm going to school. And I'm going to get through college. And I'm not going to be like my dad. It was one thing that would push me harder. And skimmed through high school, went to University of North Carolina at Greensboro, played sports for them, met my ex-wife in college. I drank in college. It wasn't like... there were problems you could see arising for me drinking. I had some arrests, DWI. I think I got 1 or 2 back in that time frame. Which, let me for record, I've had 7 DWIs. Okay, so you start losing count, and when you get into double digits, man, you start losing count. And it's sort of, I'm laughing about it too, man. I tell you what, I wasn't laughing when they locked me up for 3 years on the last one. But I've had several run-ins with the law, but still was motivated to get through school. I thought that one thing I'm going to show the world is I'm a smart dude and I'm going to make it happen. And there's not really all these problems, the stuff I'm dealing with this little panic stuff, man, I'm going to get this thing. Don't worry about it. I'm going to trudge through it. And I did to a certain extent. I graduated high in my class. I was magna cum laude in the business school. Got a double major in finance and economics. My ex-wife got her master's in education and went on and got her doctorate in education. And we moved to Statesville, which is a horrible town, but it's close to Charlotte where I worked. And I got hired with a Fortune 500 company, and I came in pretty strong. And I made a lot of money. I bought a big house. I had a trophy wife. And I remember sitting around one time in my house going, I've got it all. I had a den that was aside from my living room that I'd made into my office area. And I literally remember sitting back in my chair and looked around like I've got everything anybody could ever want. Bought a golf cart, bought a club membership. I could drive my golf cart from my driveway to the first hole. It was soon after that I was introduced to a combination of things that was the start of my complete downfall. And this is AA, and I'm going to adhere to the singularity of purpose, but my story involves a couple other things. I'll try to refer to some things as alcohol or drinking, but some of the things I'm going to be blunt about. I had a back injury that I don't know, maybe I was 3 or 4 years after I got married, and I had some treatment for it, ended up having surgery for it. And this was right on the onslaught of pain management clinics. They're a little more regulated now back than they were then. And man, I was given a cocktail that I'll never forget. When I first came off surgery and I was given, heavy narcotics, pain pills and whatnot, that and the combination of alcohol was like I breathed for the first time. And I remember it. I remember when that combination hit my system. And it was off to the races from there. I mean, things went downhill quick. I lived a double life for a long time. My ex-wife, God bless her, man, she was a good lady. Her family was good people. They did not know what they got into. I mean, this was a totally different person than what. I mean, we'd been together 4 years before we got married. We're almost 8 years, 9 years into being together, and she's living with a stranger. I had an engineering job in Charlotte, and I would go. I remember I'd have meetings. I remember I had a meeting with Duke Energy one day in downtown Charlotte in the Nations Bank building, like in the penthouse. And I was so sick going in there that I remember me drinking and doing what I had to do in the car before I went and talked to a bunch of engineers and tried to sell this multi-million-dollar plan, just so I could walk. And I did that a lot. And it started catching up with me. My ex-wife, she's like, dude, what's up, man? Work performance went way down. I ended up quitting that job. The job I'd held for almost 10 years that I'd done, I thought it was all me. When I was at this job, it's like, it's nothing to do with them. It's all me is why I've had this success. The real truth of it is, the reason why I had some success was it was a good company I was working for. And I did a pretty good job for a while. But, that's how I rolled, man. It was all, man, you're not giving me nothing. It's all me, And when you mix the combination of drugs and alcohol with me, it definitely became all me. I went to treatment, I think, for the first time when I was in my second job. I took another engineering job in Charlotte, and I went to Wilmington Treatment Center. I was forced to go. My family did what do they call that? It's on TV? Intervention. Good Lord, man. They did an intervention on me. I watched that show too, man. I can't even think of it. My wife had me, and I'm going to keep referring to my ex-wife out of respect for her. I know I say that, but my ex-wife suckered me down to Pinehurst on the premise that my mom needed me for some reason. I pulled up my driveway, and there's 2 Pinehurst policemen, and I'm like, what's going on here, man? And they were there to keep me calm, to let them know, because they're about to take me into treatment. And they was damn lucky they had them policemen there, because I was about to show out. I showed out a little bit anyway. They handcuffed me. You know what I mean? They were like, they didn't take, because I was getting a little aggressive, and they're like, man, we're going to cuff you up. And they took me down to whatever that place is in Moore County, and then I ended up going to Wilmington treatment. I stayed sober a couple days. I mean, it wasn't anything of my own that I wanted to go there. It was just something to appease family and try to save my job. But I got back, maybe had a couple months under me, and went back out again. My wife said she'd had enough, you need to move out. Generally, this was the pattern I was starting to develop about the time that my ex-wife Melanie wanted a divorce. And that was, you intensely love me. You want me to stay away for a little bit, and the next step is you're filing a restraining order on me. And that was my steps of how it was going. And she filed a restraining order on me. She was smart to do so. I'd come to her door, you know, this is my house, and I'm going to take it back, and filed a restraining order on me. I moved into an apartment with another guy. He was as crazy as I was. Wasn't working, got fired from that job, and all I did was sit around all day and drink and other things. And my first stint with a really serious law was I got arrested for maintaining a dwelling for the selling use of cocaine and a bunch of other charges. I went to the court system, and they made a deal with them that I go to a 2-year recovery program in Asheville in lieu of prison. And I went down there to Asheville for a couple of years. And man, I had a good run in Asheville, to be honest with you. I stayed sober for at least the 2 years I was in the program. I completed it. Made a lot of friends up there. Got a good job up there again. Never bought in, though, really, to the whole principle that, you know, it's a me thing, and you know, it was just a location thing, and it was a y'all thing. And I remember it being in Asheville, and things were good. And I remember picking up that phone and making a call, man. And I called my boy up and said, man, I don't know what you got, but bring it over. And I remember just that helpless feeling like, here it goes again. You know, I mean, I know it. I know where it ends up. And I can't stop, man. I can't stop. So it was on again, man. Asheville ended up, I think they kicked me out of Buncombe County. Who knows, man? I've been kicked out of several counties. I moved, I moved around Asheville. Took a young lady hostage, lived with her for about 3 years. I didn't have a job, wasn't making any money, totally living off her, getting wrecked up every day. And she intensely loved me. She told me to, maybe you want to stay away, and she too filed a restraining order on me. So, yeah, man, she was smart too. She should have filed one. I think I was beating on her door too, man, crazy. But I got arrested in High Point for, you know, I'm skipping some of the, I've had so damn many DWIs, man, I'm skipping a lot of them, but for number 7 in High Point. And I remember, and other charges. And I went to the court, hired a lawyer. You know, to this point, man, I've been able to buy my way out of stuff. If I knew I'd find an alley to get in and get out of trouble. I paid a lawyer, I think $5,000 or $6,000, man, to keep me out of prison. And we go in front of a judge, and I remember this distinctly too. We were in High Point, and I remember the DA spouting off every DWI I've had, and I could hear the crowd behind me, and it was like, whoo, oh, and it's hitting me in the back of the head, and I'm like, dude, this ain't good, man. This ain't good at all. And then I remember, without a blink, the judge, it was an African-American lady, pretty lady, I remember her looking at me, and she was going, "You are a menace, sir. You are a menace. And I'm maxing you out." And I got 2 years for that DWI. Got a year for probation violation, some other charges. On paper, I had damn near 4 years. And I got locked up right then, man. I was in my suit. Never saw that suit again. I gave it away to somebody, but they locked me up. And I went to prison. And so I'm sitting there going, well, they got you, Ash. You know, it's over now. I'm in my either late 30s or in my 40s at this time. And, you know, I'm in prison. And went to several different camps, man. I think I went to 5 or 6 camps while I was in there. I ended up getting paroled. Here's what I know, man. When I was in prison, I was like, this is the worst it's going to be right here. I mean, you know, the state has told you that you are unmanageable. We're going to manage you for a while. When they step in like that, man, you probably are unmanageable. And I was, man. I was unmanageable. I was beating my head to get out of prison. Beating my head, man. Like, I remember I got a parole letter saying, and I think I ended up doing 2 years and 4 or 5 months. But I got a parole letter saying I was going to be paroled within the next 60 days. And I was like, oh, dude, let me out now. I mean, I'm literally beating my head on the wall trying to get out of prison. And I got out. And I got paroled, okay? And they have a home plan when you get paroled. And you have to physically have somebody sign off on you and really take responsibility for you. You know, let you stay in their dwelling, be free to get searched. And I could get nobody to sign this home plan. I mean, I had burnt every bridge I know, every friend I had. And see, here's the deal, man. I got smart family and I got smart friends. And they were smart not to sign that home plan because it would have been trouble for them. And they knew it, but I didn't know it. You know, I'm like, man, this is the pinnacle, man. You reached the top. It can't get nothing but better. And I got a place called the Healing Place in Raleigh. It's basically a homeless shelter, but it's a program too. And they agreed to take me in, and they agreed to sign my home plan. And the deal was that I'd go to Raleigh, I'd go in this program, and, you know, I'm starting with, I gave the suit away when I went to prison. I mean, in prison were giving me clothes to get out. I had nothing. The only person that reached out to me was my younger sister. And my younger sister has spoke here before. She's in the rooms. She's about going on 9 years sober now. She's a big reason why I'm here today. She's the only one that knew that she knows what an alcoholic goes through. And she also knew that you better stay the hell away from a crazy alcoholic, which is what I was when I was getting out of prison. So she goes, man, I'll give you a train ticket to Raleigh. That's all I'll do for you. You can't stay at my place. And I went to the Healing Place. I'm on such intensive parole, man, that I stayed sober for a while. I mean, I didn't want to go back and do the rest of the year and a half I had left. But when I finally got off intensive, I got out of the program. I went to a halfway house. Got a job. It's the same deal with me, man. The thing is, I don't. What is important to me now, and a lot of people in here, was not important to me back then. It was, you know, I wanted the car, I wanted the ladies, I wanted the money, you know, all those things that I thought, you know, make a person happy. The thing is, man, I've had it, man. I've had it time and time again, and it doesn't make me happy. And but I was on that search again, man. I got the car back and. Got a pretty nice job in Raleigh, and I remember sitting in my house and calling old boy up and saying, man, come over. Let's get it going, man. Let's get it going again. And that was the start of another one that I hardly even remember. Here's what I know about being locked up, man. I was released within 4 or 5 months. I was heavily drinking, heavily using again. And I remember sitting in my room in Raleigh and thinking, damn, dude, they can lock you up, man. They can put you behind walls. They can put you behind gates. But you cannot escape this prison that you put yourself in every time. And I remember being in my room and my heart's beating, and I'm in straight panic, man. I'm in straight panic. And I'm sitting there going, man, you're never going to be anything different this ass. You're going to die a drunk. You're going to die drunk, man, that all you did was suck from this world and do nothing. And I remember picking up that phone, man, and I called my parole officer, and I said, violate me, man, because I want to go back to prison. Because it's a sure a lot better than where I'm at right now. And they started the paperwork. He was going to violate me, and I was ready to go back. And I had my sister came over, talked to me a while, and said, listen, man, we don't want you to go back to prison. She tried to help me out, get me reintroduced to the rooms. I ended up back here in Pinehurst for Thanksgiving. It's the first time I've seen my parents in 5 years. That was 2 Thanksgivings ago. 6 years, maybe. The only reason they let me come is because my mom's a soft-hearted lady, and she hadn't seen her son in a long time. And I was I was bouncing in and out of the rooms, and I'm starting to drink again, and I'm in the guest room of my mom and dad's house, and I go out to Asheville to see a friend of mine, and I don't come back for 10 days. 10 days that I don't remember. I don't remember any of it. I remember I got back home and I slept for 3 days solid. I remember my mom came in there and she was shaking me like, dude, you gotta eat something, drink something, you're gonna die in here. And I was in a coma. I woke up 3 days later, and there's two friends of mine that I haven't seen in decades. I'll call them by their first names. I don't think they'll mind it. Barry and Mark. And I went to high school with these boys. One of them I knew well, like was in my wedding, was like the best man in my wedding. Had partied with this dude hard. Sat around a trailer with no electricity, with a heater running. If y'all know what I mean, that's what I did with this guy. And I sat there and I was like, I looked at him, and I know enough about the rooms to do what they were doing. I was like, these sons of bitches are 12-stepping me right now. And I was like, I looked at him and I was like, man, first off, my first reaction was, how did this dude get sober? This one dude. You know, I could maybe see the other one. He was crazy too. But how did this one dude get sober? That was my first thought. My second thought was I was pissed. I was like, how dare you, man? How dare you come in my parents' room? How dare you come in my parents' room and stop me from dying? How dare you? How dare you? They didn't strong arm me. I don't know. I've thought about it a couple times, and you know, I'm one of those dudes that want to make me think I'm more special than I am. I was like, those guys must have talked about how to handle my crazy ass back then, because they didn't. You know, truth be known, things fall into place the way they fall. I'm a garden variety alcoholic. There's really not that much special about me, but neither one of them strong arm me. Barry said to me, who's a good friend, he said, look, dude, will you just call me tomorrow? I'm not asking anything, just call me tomorrow. And I remember I got up, and you know, my family was glad to see they weren't going to take me to the emergency room. I'd been asleep for 3 days. And my mom, the only good thing I've done in a while was she was having some surgery. And she was like, will you drive me around for a couple days? I've got to go to some pre-checks, and she can't drive. And so I did that, and I rode around the first day all mad, like sitting there like, those sons of guns, man. You know, what do they think they're doing? And I called him. I was like, Barry, all right, I'm calling, man. I'm calling because you're a buddy of mine. What do you want? What's up? What do you want? Nothing, man, nothing. I don't want nothing, man. I wanted you to call and check in with me, just make sure you're all right. All right, well, I'm checking. There it is. And he's like, all right, man, will you call me tomorrow? And so I said, yeah, man, I'll call you tomorrow. I'm still pissed, like, dude, waiting for the pitch, waiting for it. Give me the pitch, man. Called him the next day, same thing, man. I'm aggressive, like, all right, man, I'm calling you. I said I would. We're old friends. I'm an alcoholic, but I'm loyal. If we go back a ways and you ask me to do something, I'm going to do it. Okay, so that's why I'm calling you, homeboy. What's up? And he's like, nothing, man, nothing, dude. I just want to make sure you're all right, man. I just want to say hello and that I love you, man. And I want to know if you're all right. And I'm like, love me? Okay. All right, dude. Will you call me tomorrow? Yeah, I'll call you tomorrow, Barry. So I rode around the third day, dropping Mom here and there, and I'm sitting in my car, and I start crying, man. And I called Barry up, and I said, Barry, man, I need help, man. I need it right here, and I need it right now. If there's anything above or anything other than this dream that I've been in for the last 2 decades, I need your help right now. And he said, we're coming to get you. And I had my sister come, he came, Mark came. I went to detox. I went to a place called Samaritan Colony. I know a lot of people went in here, and some people didn't. I don't like making things a colony meeting, but I did go there. I'm not much on epiphanies or burning bushes or clouds parting. At best, I'm a skeptic and a naysayer, at best. I was in a room one day, and Harold started talking about how his son committed suicide to this disease. And some people know Harold in here. And I remember a dude that, you know, man, I started crying again, and I couldn't stop. I mean, like embarrassed and hyperventilating, crying. going in the bathroom trying to hide it. I remember Mark and Robert and Barry talking me down and telling me some good things about me, made me feel better about myself. And I don't know, man, I'm not saying, there was, hell, I'm saying it, man. I had a change of course in Rockingham, North Carolina. And I started to look at things differently. And I did what they told me to do. I completed treatment. I was lucky. They have a trailer on site, and I lived in that trailer for like 6 months. I didn't leave the site. I got to see all these guys coming in, man, and how when I'd have a bad day and I see a guy just walking in who has nothing like I had, and I'd be like, damn, and I thank those guys for that, man. I wanted to leave. I really did. I did my 30 days. I was ready to roll. That 6 months up there was real special for me. I went through the halfway houses. I still live in a recovery house. It's a house, but I'm surrounded by people in recovery. I don't usually go the full distance, man. I'm gonna cut it short. I have things for me have changed exponentially in a short amount of time. And I know that alone won't keep me sober, okay? But I know that I have a shot at it. And I tell you, man, I don't have those feelings anymore where I wake up and I go, damn, son, you missed the mark again. Because that was me, man. I didn't want to be here. I didn't want to be on this planet. I didn't want to be on this existence. I was tired of it. And, I'm too much of a coward to do it the old-fashioned way. But I do the cocktails enough to where I push the limits on if you wake up and see another day. And I can remember my eyes opening and going, damn it, man, you missed it again. Missed it again. I don't think those things anymore. I'm very, very grateful, man. Like today, I said earlier, I went to work at 5:30 in the morning. Y'all hear me? Man, I went to work 5:30 in the morning. Let that register for a second. I play golf with some good friends of mine. I do that regularly. Rushed over here. I go to a lot of meetings. I come here a lot. Chuck and I go to a lot of places together. Chuck's been a big part of my sobriety. I clicking up with y'all. I don't know. There's steps and there's guidelines, but hey, man, I'm going to tell you the right click will help you. If they ain't told you that, I'll tell you. I don't like. I like being around my family. Maybe that's man. Maybe that's what I've been looking for. Who knows, man? All I know today is I woke up sober. I went to work. I paid some bills. Paid some bills too, man. Drove a car. Good Lord, man. How did they give me a license back? How did they give me a license back? Go figure that, man. I'm not on parole anymore. My family doesn't lock the doors when I come around. My daughter doesn't cry when she sees me, scared out of her wits. I didn't wake up dope sick today. And I didn't steal from my mother today. Anyway, man, I'm certainly glad Chuck asked me to speak. I had a guy, I was in Raleigh one time, and he was all leathered up, looked like a Hell's Angel or something. I was listening to him talk, big dude. My first reaction was, damn, I would hate to run in this dude in a dark alley. I was sitting right in the front looking at him like, good Lord, man, this guy would be a lot to handle. And I remember him looking out like to everybody. He goes, if you haven't heard this today from anybody else, I want to tell you, man, that I love you. And I looked up at him and I was like, damn, that dude means it, man. He means it. I could tell he means it. Hey, man, if y'all hadn't heard it today from anybody else, I love y'all. And thanks for letting me speak. I appreciate it.